Welcome back to the Really Tough Men of Faith podcast.
Really tough men.
So here's the thing, Nick. What's my name?
RT.
You know what that stands for?
Really tough.
Really tough. That's my nickname. When kids ask me, because they always want to ask, hey, what's your initials stand for? I say, really tough.
Really? I always thought it was Richard.
No, you're
Weird.
definitely wrong.
Yeah, I guess so.
Not even close. So, really tough. Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't know that. I thought we were
Really
friends.
tough stringer.
That's it. Yep.
Pastor, really tough.
Yeah,
That's
I use it
actually- That's pretty good.
It's true. I use it more with my my daughters. They're teenagers.
Oh, yeah.
So when guys like, hey, what's your dad's name stand for?
Really tough.
Really tough.
Yeah.
So
It's not really tall.
All right.
Well, we talked about this one time. You said on your headstone when you die, you just wanted to say pastor. But wouldn't it be really cool if it said pastor, really tough?
It definitely.
Huh?
Can you make that happen?
I'm sure I can find a marble
I'll probably die
engraver.
before you.
Yeah, I doubt it.
I don't know.
You've got me by 3 years. You're 30 years healthier than I am. Producer Blake just texted me. He said RT stands for Richie Two Squirrels. He said it's your mob name.
He's sitting in the same room with us.
Yeah,
He's
but-
within, I can reach him.
Right? You can. You should smack him.
You realize I'm really tough, right? I mean, what's going on here? You're making
get
fun
it.
of my stature? No, less.
Dude, you're a man that lives with 4 women. I know that you're really tough. I live with 1 woman and a female dog, and I'm not near as tough. Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
What are we talking about today?
I don't know. I think we're talking about leadership or something from the book of Nehemiah.
That's right.
I think you're going to preach a little, right?
I did say that last week, didn't I?
You did.
I said, yeah, I'm going to preach to you. Well, I don't know about preaching. So the book of Nehemiah.
Yeah.
I love the book. A couple
Me
reasons
too.
why. That's true. I should have read it this morning before I came in here.
Yeah.
I've read it several times. I'm ready to preach it to you.
I realized it was like 13 chapters. I really could have knocked that out yesterday, and
Yeah.
I didn't.
I've got my Bible pulled up here.
Good.
I'm just going to work through it. I got a new preaching Bible a couple weeks ago. So
Oh, really?
yeah, goat skin.
Goat
It's
skin.
nice. It lays flat. Yeah. Yeah. Like you have tools. There's tools of the trade. Like you get new banjos for drywalling, right? Is that what they're called?
Yeah, it's called a banjo.
Or stilts. What's the stilts are the coolest thing you have in drywall.
No, it's not. The electric sander is the coolest thing I have.
I haven't seen it.
It's cordless, so it runs on like DeWalt batteries. Because I'm a DeWalt tool
Yeah.
guy.
I'm not a fan of DeWalt. I'm more a Makita guy.
It's okay to be wrong. So it's like telescoping.
Okay.
And it's an orbital sander, so you can like sand down your drywall work. It's a huge time saver, labor saver. I mean, it weighs 30 pounds, and you got to be able to muscle it. Really tough men of faith.
Sure.
We got this, but yeah, that's probably the coolest tool that I have.
Man, so do people? So I did drywall in college. So
Yeah.
going back a few years.
Oh wow.
So yeah. But I had like the pole sander. So do you still use those?
So yeah, we have those, but it's like for kind of cleaning up the angles and things. But we don't really we don't work near as hard as we used to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't think the stilts are as cool because you're like 6'11", where
Right. Yeah. I'm not.
At me,
I'm
it, like-
6'2" and a heavy half.
yeah, with me being 5'11"
Yeah.
or so,
Yeah. Or so.
stilts are pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a guy at work. He's got stilts that are 64 inches tall from the floor to his feet. And he walks on. He can touch a 12-foot-6 ceiling
Wow.
and work comfortably there.
Does he ever go to parades?
What's that?
See
No,
the
he
guy at parades?
doesn't.
Can he
No,
juggle?
he can't juggle either.
Well, what? Okay.
Yeah, so what does he do?
Anyways,
Yeah.
I don't know how we got there. Oh, Nehemiah.
Yeah.
Talking about that today.
Yep.
Leadership. Here's why one of the reasons I love this book. We've talked about this before in Tough Men of Faith.
Yep, because you're a leader.
Nope,
No?
you're
Okay.
wrong. Yeah, well, I mean, hopefully I'm a leader. We're all leaders. One thing I like about this book is that it shows that God uses ordinary people, average people.
Oh, I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
This goes back to our meeting that we had pre-podcast.
Today?
See, yeah, we just use ordinary people.
We do. Yeah, I was talking Nick and not talking you into it, encouraging that you should do something.
Yeah,
In
in a leadership position.
leadership
And-
position.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, God can even use you, Nick.
Yeah, right.
So, but that's one of the things you said. It's like,
God's not looking for perfect people, is
No.
what you said. He's looking for regular people that, have issues just like anybody else in the world. Mm-hmm. He's like, you could be a good fit for this.
yeah, and I think you'll see your story in. Now, think about this. You'll see your story in this book some where you have a burden for seeing something happen. And that's
Yeah.
the reason you're willing to get involved in that leadership position.
Okay.
So Nehemiah, he's a cupbearer.
Yeah.
Do you know any cupbearers?
No.
Basically, so like a butler.
Oh, yeah.
You know a butler?
Yeah, I have a butler at home.
Oh, boy.
Is that what you call them?
No.
No?
I don't. Well, maybe you do. I don't. I mean, if you're thinking what I'm thinking.
I generally just call her wife. but
Okay, yeah, there
so,
we go.
No.
Well, you didn't get in trouble last episode, so you're due, right?
She knows that I kind of hype things up a little bit for the podcast. She knows I don't really think that way, And then she also brings it up that, hey, sometimes I'm kind of like your butler. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Anyway, he's a butler, a cupbearer.
Just kidding, Rachel.
So what he would do is, like, if the king was going to eat some food or drink something,
Yeah.
so you didn't want to poison the king.
Oh.
So he would drink, like, the wine before they give it to the king to make sure it was safe.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. Don't we have that modern day still?
Like the presidents?
Yeah, I think for like the president.
I'm not sure.
Like somebody has to open his can of Ensure and taste it before he does, because he's 162 years old.
Yeah. Well, we're not a political podcast.
You're right. We're not.
but
Let's move on.
I'm sure some guys laughing sitting in their trucks right now,
sure
in
they
cars
are.
or at the gym working out, listening to this podcast. So, anyways, I was saying about Nehemiah. Back to that.
Sorry.
He's just an ordinary guy.
Yeah.
Like nothing special.
Right.
But he's
That's
a
why
leader.
he's a cupbearer.
Yeah.
Because he's an ordinary guy and nobody's going to miss him.
Yeah. So he's not like in that day, he's not a priest or a
Right.
prophet. He's not a great warrior. He's not a king. His job was to taste the wine before the king did.
Yep.
I guess if you like wine, it'd probably
That's a great job.
be a great job. But I guess the other problem is like if someone's trying to kill the king, I guess
Yeah, it's not a great job.
not a great job.
Yeah.
So has its perks, I guess. If you're
Right. I'm
So-
trying to think of what cut of meat the cupbearer gets first. Because you know that like the king's getting the fillet. So are you getting, a little tendon meat?
Let's get back to the story.
Sorry. Anyway,
So we're just going to work through the book of Nehemiah,
great.
and then you just kind of
Jump
chime
in.
in with your
Yeah.
expertise as we kind of walk through it. What are you laughing at?
I can't wait.
I can't wait either. It starts out in chapter 1. Now, we're going to skip. Like, you guys should go read the entire 13 chapters.
Yes, 13 chapters.
Right.
I
So
mean-
today we're just going to hit parts of it, and I'll mention some things.
Take you an hour and a half tops.
Yeah, but chapter 1 kicks
You could probably-
off.
You could probably listen to it.
You could. I'm not going to read it to him right now, but
Well, no, I'm saying like I have the Bible app on my phone.
yeah.
And it's got a playback. So, I mean, the other day I covered like 3 chapters in Matthew that I was reading in like a 15-minute drive. So
Yeah.
it worked really good.
You know, you want to hear a funny story on that?
Sure.
Is I have this guy. He's no longer here now, but he used to come to church.
Yeah.
And he had that Bible app, and there's just one button you push on, it'll start reading to you. And so it was about every Sunday. He sat towards the front. He'd push that button, and it would start reading the scripture to him. He's one of those guys who wasn't great with technology.
Yeah.
So he would read for a while.
Nice.
Anyways, chapter 1 of Nehemiah starts out saying that, hey, there's a problem. Basically, that the Jews had escaped. They survived the exile. And what's happening is there's a few of them left, but the walls are broken down and there's no gates. So that would have been an issue in that day. So
Yeah.
the cities needed a wall, it needed a gate to protect you from the outside.
Right.
It'd have been an embarrassment to God's people
Yep.
to not have walls around. So Nehemiah gets passionate about this. So verse 4 goes on. It says, as soon as I heard these words, I sat down and wept and mourned for days, and I continued fasting and praying before the God of heaven. So he hears about this great need,
Yep.
and it brings him to tears.
Yeah. He starts fasting and starts praying.
Yeah. And that's a thing, as a tough man, are there things that I see out there that break my heart because they're taking place?
Yeah.
And
there are.
There's some awful things in this world. Like
I
when
agree.
you hear about it, you're like,
I can't
man.
believe like that's really happening.
Yeah. Sometimes we read about it, like on social media or reading
Yeah.
the news. You're like, man, that's awful. Like, why does that happen? And even some extreme things like sex trafficking, or
Yeah.
you look at kids who are starving in other countries, or
Right.
even things in our.
I mean, just look at all the things that just happened in Afghanistan a few months ago.
Yeah.
And, all the repercussions of that and everything that's kind of unfolding from that now.
It's crazy. I had it
Yeah.
this week. So Indianapolis, the city we're in, we've already broke the murder record for this year.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
we're what, November, December
Yeah, we
now.
still have a
I
month
think we
left.
broke it back in November.
Yeah.
And so we still have a month left.
Yeah.
And I was pulling some of the data to see how many of those murders took place around our church where we minister.
Yeah.
A lot of them did. And what got me
Wow.
looking at that is this past weekend, one of them happened just a half block away from the
Wow.
church. And so it's just breaking my heart because my kids walk this neighborhood.
Yeah.
We
Yeah, they
worked
go-
and live
yeah.
here and spend a lot of time here. And so Nehemiah hears this, and
Yep.
it's enough to break his heart where he starts weeping
Yeah.
because of the problem. And so, it's okay for tough men to cry.
Right.
I don't think we've ever
Yeah,
said that
do,
on this.
do it in private, but
And this is the commentary I was
we
looking
actually
forward
just
to.
talked about it the other day when a friend of mine was asking me for help.
Yeah.
Same thing. He called me weeping.
Yeah.
And he actually listened to that podcast episode and he wasn't upset about it. But
Yeah,
anyway,
good.
yeah.
Yeah, but so it says he wept and he mourned for days
Yeah.
because he was so burdened about this taking place.
Right.
And then after he started weeping about it, or it really bothered him, in other words, he continued fasting and praying. So he knew there's a problem.
Yep.
What did he do? He took it to God.
Right.
So he fasted, he was praying. He starts talking to God about it and different things. So I think we can learn from that. So what is it that breaks your heart? Like, what is it that bothers you? You look at it like, that's not okay. Like, someone should do something about it. And so as men, there should be things that we sit down to weep about.
Yeah.
Then it says he prayed for some days. He cried about it. Chapter 2. You ready for chapter 2?
I am.
Are you pulling it up on your Bible over there?
I got it.
All right. So it starts out chapter 2 talking about that he goes to the king to give him some wine, and he's never been sad in the king's presence. So as the cupbearer, you wouldn't want to be sad in front of the king.
Right.
Because that's not what the king wants to
Yeah.
see. You're giving him wine.
I don't
he
want
wants you to
wine
be
that
happy.
makes you sad.
Yeah, right. I didn't think of it that way, but maybe that's why.
Okay.
So the king said to me, "Why is your face sad, seeing you're not sick?" Hey, so you're sad. You're not sick. What's going on?
Yeah, what's your issue?
This is nothing but a sadness of heart. So then he said he's very much afraid. So the king could have had him killed for being sad in front of his presence. Verse 3 said, I said to the king, let the king live forever. Why should not my face be sad when the city, the place of my father's graves, lies in ruins and the gates have been destroyed by fire? So he tells the king's like, hey, shouldn't I be sad? Like my people, like everything's falling apart for him.
He's kind of telling the king that his city's kind of in ruins.
Yeah, that's some boldness.
That's really bold.
To tell the king. Verse 4, the king said to him, so what are you requesting?
Yeah.
And then I love this next thing in Scripture, verse 4 there, chapter 2, he says, so I prayed to the God of heaven. So the king asked him, like, hey, what is it you want? This isn't like one of those long prayers.
Yeah.
He's just immediately like, I said a quick prayer.
Yeah, God, please help me.
And then I said to the king, if it pleases the king, and if your servant has found favor in your sight, and that you send me to Judah, so that the city of my father's graves, that I may rebuild it. Here's what I love about Nehemiah.
Yeah.
So he sees something wrong, breaks his heart,
Yep.
upset about it, weeping about it. It's like, I know what I should do. I should pray about it. So he starts praying about it, but he doesn't stop there.
Right. He takes it to the king.
Takes it to the king.
Asks if he can go and take care of it.
He's a cupbearer.
Yeah.
He's not one that builds walls and builds kingdoms.
You hold chalices.
But when the king's like, what do you want? He's like, oh, I want to go build that wall.
Yeah.
I want to go do that. That's a leader, man, that's standing up to take action.
Yeah.
And this is where a lot of guys fall short, is that we see a need and we're thinking, someone ought to do something about that.
Yeah.
And we may even pray about it. If we're a man of faith and we're
Right.
Christians, like, hey, I'm going to pray about it.
Or may even take the next step and take your problem or take what you want to see fixed to someone. But I think a lot of people stop there.
They stop there. Or what a lot of men do is they'll go to other people and be like, hey, you should do this.
Yeah. Or, hey, don't you think this should be done?
Yeah.
And then they just talk about it. But
They do.
They don't be about it.
Yeah, so Nehemiah here, he's like, I'm not going to send other people.
Yep.
I'm not going to sit back here and just cry about it. I'm not
Yeah.
going to whine about it. I'm not going to sit around and just complain constantly about how bad it is over there. I want to do something.
Yeah, I want to fix it.
I'm going to go.
And as guys, we are fixers.
We are.
We've talked about that before, too.
We have, and there's some good things. I mean, we talked about the negative side of that, but there's some
Yeah.
good things like
Right.
take initiative and do something.
Yeah.
And so Nehemiah's like, hey man, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So if there's something guys can learn, and myself included in this, is it's easy to scroll through social media and see a problem, to
Yep.
hear about something and then say, someone should do something about
Yeah.
that. And then instead of giving up. The other thing with Nehemiah, if you think about this, he had it pretty good.
Yeah, he had it really good.
Pretty content.
Yeah.
Like we talked about that last week,
Yep,
remember?
we did.
Contentment. Living in the king's palace.
Yeah.
Eating well. They want to make sure, I mean, you want to make sure he stays healthy, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
if the king is drinking after him, you don't want him getting sick.
Right.
You don't want him getting hurt. He has a pretty good life.
Yeah.
And this would have been, not real sure, but I think it'd have been several hundred miles away. What are you laughing at?
I'm not even going to go there.
All right,
I'm
good.
trying to keep it clean. I'm trying to get better about this. I'm trying to mature a little.
Oh, good. So
All right.
several hundred miles away, there's some people have a problem.
Yeah.
And he's burdened enough about them that he's willing to go put himself at risk to go
Yeah.
do that.
Just wondering what all Nehemiah gets to try of the kings before the king does.
He was the cupbearer, so the wine,
Just the wine. Okay.
water,
Got it.
Dr. Pepper, I don't know, whatever the king was drinking.
Producer Blake's just shaking his head in the other room.
All right, so let's move on to the text. And the king said to me, verse 6, basically says, hey, so what is it that you need? He's going to give him the time to go. And I said to the king, if it pleases the king, let letters be given to me to the governors of the province beyond the river, that they let me pass through until I come to Judah. And then he asked for some letters to where he can get some wood and some other things that he's going to be able to build this wall.
Nice.
Here's what I like about Nehemiah. He just doesn't like sit back and not do anything.
Right.
Prays about it. He gets up. He's like, I'm going to do something.
Yep.
But he doesn't stop there. He makes a plan.
Yeah.
What a great leadership lesson.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of guys like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And they go storming the gates like,
And that's
what's your
it.
plan, dude?
I don't know. I don't have one.
I don't know. I just thought this.
I'm
I'm
just going to fix
going
it.
to trust God.
But
right?
to ask for letters for wood and to ask for letters to other governors to let him pass through, I mean, it's really thought out.
So, and he would have to do some homework on that. I mean,
Yeah.
he couldn't Google it to say, hey, who's the king over here so I can get some lumber from
Right.
this guy. He's doing some research before he even goes to the king.
Yeah.
and
They had real tablets back then before
tablets.
tablets.
That's true. Yeah, but a lot of planning
Yeah.
to find out who's the keeper of the forest, right?
Yeah.
And so Nehemiah put in his work, did his planning. So for guys, I want to encourage you, and myself included, like, hey, it's okay to want to do something, but put in your homework.
Yep.
Chapter 2 continues on, verse 11 through 14. So he goes to Jerusalem. He's there for 3 days. He rises in the night, and he takes a few men with him. And he basically tells them what's going to happen. And he goes out tonight to kind of see the gates that's fallen down.
Yeah.
A couple things here I learned. One, he's out there working during the night. He's working hard.
Was he working during the night, or did he just go to see the gates?
Well, he went to see him.
Okay.
So I would say that like he's putting in his homework.
Yeah.
He's missing some sleep.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
I got you.
he's not playing video games.
Right.
Right? He has a serious thing to do because he's a leader, right? He's
Yeah.
not just sitting around for leisure. He's working late,
Yeah.
putting in some extra hours.
Extra hours, making a plan for tomorrow.
Making a
Keep
plan.
Everyone busy.
And then the other thing that he's doing there, if you notice, he's not going alone.
Yeah.
He takes some other guys with him.
Yep. Took some strong guys with him.
Took some strong
Some other
guys.
tough men.
Some other really tough men.
Yeah.
He had some RTs. So, but guys miss this a lot of times. Like, hey, we want to do this. But if you're a true leader, you're not going at it alone.
Right.
You're going to get some other guys involved. Whatever that ministry you want to start, that thing you think you need to do.
You learn to delegate a little bit. You learn to people you can trust and count on.
Yep.
And
Verse 17, it says, then I said to them, he's talking to the people there where the gates have fallen and everything. He's like, hey, you see the trouble we are in, how the city lies in ruins with the gates burned. Come, let us build the walls of Jerusalem that we may no longer suffer. And so he goes to these people who the walls are all down around them, and he starts trying to build them up to inspire others.
Right.
So leaders inspire others.
Yep.
Right. That's what leadership is that you're not going at this alone. He couldn't build those walls by himself. But he shows up there and says, hey, this is what we're going to do. Getting other people involved. Do you have something to say on that?
No.
Okay. I really like that point. I thought maybe you'd have some more to add. But
No, it just, it just goes like back to business. We're both kind of in business here in a different kind of business, but you have to inspire others too, and you have to lead and you have to show direction. And anyway.
Yeah. Well, let's keep going on in the text.
Yeah, let's go.
Verse 19. Now listen, you know this about me. Whenever I read some things in the Old Testament, I'm up there preaching. I don't pronounce everything correctly.
I didn't know that. I just know
do
that you read really fast because that way nobody will understand what you said. And so if you mispronounce something,
Well,
you had to catch it.
I read fast because those lines get long at the restaurants on Sundays. So, you got to get through that sermon. But no, you just say the names with confidence when you read them.
Yeah.
So,
You're not going to make me read this, are you?
you want me to read verse 19?
No.
No, you're going to read it?
No, I mean, you can read it.
No,
yeah.
I read. Okay.
I don't want to screw that up.
But when Sanballat the Hornite and Tobiah the Amorite, servant of Geshem the Arab, heard of it, is that pretty good?
That's pretty good, yeah.
All right, the names are whatever, right?
Yeah.
So, but the next line, they jeered at us and despised us.
Yeah, they laughed us to scorn.
Laughed us to scorn. What is this thing you are doing? Are you rebelling against the king? So they start to oppose them.
Yeah, kind of push back.
They start to push back.
People do that.
You notice that about being a leader?
I have.
If
People
something
like
breaks,
to push back and just to see how strong it is.
Yeah.
The leadership is.
all of a sudden there's some good news, and all of a sudden they start pushing back.
Yeah.
Like this isn't a good thing. Chapter 4, you skip a couple chapters. These guys come back. So now Nehemiah and these people, they're building the wall.
Yeah.
Chapter 4, this guy shows up again. He heard that we're building the wall. He was angry and greatly enraged, and he jeered at the Jews. And he said in the presence of his brothers in the army of Samaria, listen to how he talks about them.
Hey, wait, where are you at?
Chapter 4, verse 2 now.
Chapter 4.
Yeah, chapter 4. We've moved on.
Sorry, man.
We're
Go ahead.
going through this quick. What are these feeble Jews doing? Will they restore it for themselves? Will they sacrifice? Will they finish up in a day? Will they revive the stones out of the heaps of the rubbish and burn ones at that? He starts making fun of them. And then his buddy joins in, the buddy that we saw earlier in verse 3. He said, yes, what are they building? If a fox goes up on it, it will break down their stone wall. I mean,
he's talking about a cupbearer here trying to build a wall, and he's kind of talking trash.
he's definitely talking trash.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, even if he builds the wall, he's a cupbearer. He's an ordinary guy.
Yeah.
If a little fox goes up there and tramples on their wall, the wall is going to come crashing down. Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy.
So if you're a leader and you're doing something for God, you're doing something for the kingdom, God's called you to do something, you're stepping up and doing it. Let me help you with this. You're going to face opposition.
Oh, yeah.
There are going to be obstacles that you face.
Yep.
There's going to be criticism. I mean, he called them feeble, weak Jews. It says there in Nehemiah. It says if a fox goes up on your wall, it's going to fall down. So if you want to make a difference, you got to understand that there's going to be criticism.
Yeah, and criticism and opposition is good if you're getting it from people that you respect and want their opinion.
Yeah. So what Nehemiah does when he faces this opposition, criticism, and the text you read it there is that the first thing he takes it to God. He just prays about it.
Yeah.
Hey God, these guys, I'm doing what you want me to do. These guys are making fun of me.
Can you make these guys sick tomorrow so they don't show up and I can get this wall done?
It doesn't say he's prayed that, but
Well,
it says he took it to God.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's, that was in there.
The second thing he did is he got back to work.
Yep.
So he prayed about it, just went right back to work. Didn't let that stop him. The other thing that we see is verse 10. Yeah, verse 10. So the people that are helping him build the wall. So in Judah it was said, the strength of those who bear the burdens is failing. There's too much rubble. By ourselves we will not be able to rebuild the wall. He talks about our enemies are saying that we can't do this. So not only is he facing opposition from the outside,
Right.
but there's people inside like his camp
Yeah.
who are pushing back.
Well, now it's a tough job. There's too much rubbish. There's too much debris.
So if you're leading, be assured that people from the outside will criticize you.
Yeah.
But be ready for the criticism to come from the inside as
Yep.
well. You know, I get asked sometimes as a pastor, like, do people ever criticize stuff? I'm like,
No, never.
never. But what's interesting is most of my criticism comes from inside,
Yeah.
not outside. I mean,
Yeah.
occasionally stuff pops up outside.
Oh,
People
yeah.
will say things.
Right.
But when it hurts is when it's
Yeah. People that are close to you.
people that you're serving along, like, hey, so for us, like, we want to see a difference in our city. We want to see the gospel go out in our city. Let's
Yeah.
work together to do this. And so when that criticism comes from the inside, like, hey, we can't really do this, we're small, or
Yeah.
no, we can, right? Anyways, I'll get off my soapbox on that one.
All right.
But I just love Nehemiah.
Yeah.
So here's a couple, do you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I keep thinking about like criticism from within. Like I
Yeah.
have a few employees that like to criticize a lot, and my advice always to them is find a better way to do it. If you have a better way, I'm all ears.
Yeah.
But find a better way and show me that it'll work better than my way of doing things, and we'll go that route. We'll go that direction. I just keep an open mind.
Yeah.
Sometimes the criticism's good, even when it's not what you want to hear.
Yeah, I'm sure if Nehemiah, right? So we said he's an average guy.
Yeah.
He's going from being a cupbearer is like, I'm
Right.
going to go build a wall.
Yeah, now I'm going to go build a wall, and now I've got people criticizing me, and
Then you
know-
start to think, I had it pretty good. I was
Yeah.
sitting at the king's table.
Yeah.
Things were going good for me. All of a sudden, I stuck my neck out to do something.
Right.
So I think the other thing, part of leadership, is that you have to expect opposition. If you're
Yep.
doing something for God, if you get opposed, so many times we quit because like things got bad. God must not want me to do this.
Right.
Have you ever thought that maybe things are getting bad because it's the enemy that wants you to stop doing this?
Yeah.
And so if he can discourage you, throw criticism your way, and all of a sudden you're thinking, it's really not that important. I'm
Yeah.
just going to stop. Then who's going to pick up and do
Right.
that if you don't?
no one,
Yeah.
not the guy that wasn't doing it before you.
Right. Yeah. And then even like Nehemiah, like, hey, when a guy says, hey, I'm not qualified to do that, or God wants to use people who have been Christians for a long time and have
Yeah.
fancy prayers, and yet we see Nehemiah like,
You're
soon as
going
the
back to
king's
it
like,
again, aren't you?
king's like, hey, what do you want? Nehemiah says a short prayer. It's like, this is what I want.
Yep.
This is my plan. Yeah, I'm going back to it, right? What
Yeah.
we talked about before we
Yeah.
jumped on air.
Yeah, you just keep doing that.
That's how God works. I told you
See?
when we were talking about that I
Right.
would never thought that I'd be where I'm at.
Yeah, exactly. Here you are.
Here I am. It's where
So-
God wants me, using
Yep.
average people.
Very average. Really tough
Well-
people.
Sometimes a little below average.
Only when we're talking about height. Come on. Just kidding, man. I
All
always say
right.
that because I'm 6'2", 6'3".
I know.
You know.
I
don't-
thought how are you 6'3"?
Yeah, I think that's what my license says.
Okay, my kids think you're like 7'2", so
Well, that's because your kids are in the fours.
my kids are they're about to
We have
pass
one
me.
kid that's 5 foot something.
They're all three probably going to pass me.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, so Nehemiah ends this way. Basically, when he's getting some of that criticism, he tells them, remember the Lord, who's great and awesome. Fight for your brothers and your sons and your daughters, your wives, and your homes.
Yep.
I just love how there's opposition coming. Nehemiah's passionate. He's setting this vision for the people. And he's saying, hey, remember God. Remember why we're here. Remember why this is important.
Yeah.
And then fight for your brothers, your sisters, your
Right.
homeland. It's kind of like Braveheart. I loved that movie as a kid. Have you seen it? Mel Gibson?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, loved it, right? So when
Right.
he's on his horse before him with his war paint, and that's how I picture Nehemiah here. He's like this ordinary guy, and things are
Really?
going south.
I picture him with a pickaxe and he's grabbing somebody's donkey to help start moving rubble. But okay.
Yeah, I think he's a pretty tough dude.
Yeah.
But he probably doesn't look like it.
Well, with chalice hands.
Chalice hands,
you know.
yeah. I didn't even think about that. He wouldn't have had calluses on his
No, not
hands,
a
right?
single
Probably.
callus.
I mean, probably not. We don't know for sure, but
No way.
at least what the job he had. Now all of
Yeah.
a sudden he's like out there building walls,
Yeah.
fighting off people. I
Yeah.
love it though. It shows our point.
And he's
Ordinary
getting
guy.
opposition and he's kind of fighting back. He's arguing
Yeah.
back and, hey, if you got a better idea, come show me.
Yep.
Or lend me your donkey and your pitchfork so we can make this work a little better,
Yeah.
You got a guy that knows how to build a gate? Bring him on over.
All right, let's wrap this up.
I'm
We're
a
going late.
cupbearer. What do you expect from me? I'm just trying.
Here's what I want you guys to get today. This is
Yeah.
what I get when I read this. There's so much here. I'd encourage you to read the book. There's a
Yeah.
lot of leadership lessons we missed.
I mean, we just went through 4 chapters.
We did.
So,
But do something, right? If your heart is breaking about something, if there's something out there like someone should do something about
Yep.
this, maybe God's showing you that so that you will do it.
Yeah.
So step up and lead in your church, in your community, in your home.
Yep.
Lead, right?
yeah. And the place you work,
Place you work.
if you're going to be the opposition, great. Be the opposition to your leaders, but do it in a positive way. Provide a different avenue for what they're wanting to get done. it's great to have an opinion and to think about things in a different way than maybe your boss does, but take it to him in a respectful kind of way, and maybe it'll be a better thing.
Yeah, I love it. I've enjoyed this one.
Yep. I think I have a buddy that's in the military, and he kind of said the same thing. If you can find a way to do something the military already does, and you can find a way to do it cheaper, they will actually give you a percentage of that if it's a big enough savings to them. And I don't know. That's probably a lie, but
I've never heard of that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to look into that.
Yeah.
May get you a bigger Christmas gift if that happens.
Sweet, we're doing Christmas gifts on the podcast.
We'll unwrap them on the podcast.
Blake
Can we do a
will
video
love all that
podcast,
paper.
Blake, on that one? All right, thanks for joining us today, guys. Make sure to like us on Facebook, share this podcast if you have some friends that are interested, or give it a share on Facebook so others can see it.
Yeah.
Thanks again for joining us. And
we look forward to talking to you guys next week.
See you.